Let's move on to the next topic right now. We are going to go into, we're going to stay talking about coaches here because, the Lions obviously won, but the Eagles didn't win. The Cowboys didn't win. And the question that we have is, should Mike McCarthy and Nick Sirianni get fired for one and done outings? And my guy, oh my God, I'm over here blanket. Darren, the mic is yours.
So here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say Nick Sirianni. No, I don't think he should be fired. I mean, I think like I said earlier, I think something was going on. Something was going on with that organization. I mean, I did hear there was something going on with the locker room. I guess they got into it. I didn't watch the big major sports thing today, but I guess something was going on. But my thing is, I think Hurts was a little bit more banged up than what he was given credit for. And he's one of them players, he's a young Matt Stafford. He's got the dog in him. He got his knee banged up. He gets a brace put on there, and he's back in the game. Speaking fantasy, he was my quarterback this year, and I was like, there's times I've seen him get hit. I've seen him limping. I'm like, is he gonna play? I'm like, man, what am I gonna do? Like this dude, this dude's limping. This dude's getting knocked out. But the thing is I think it was a little bit more. I think something, even the finger was all, twisted. It was just gnarly looking. So I don't want to say Nick Sirianni should be fired for that. I do think maybe they should have rested Hurts. I think when they was 10-1, I think when he was taking some hits, they should have been like, hey man, if you're gonna miss half the game, because there was a lot of those games they was up. He could have been sitting a little bit more. Just hey, rest, do what you got to do. On the other hand, Cowboys. McCarthy is out of there. And I know, everyone's like, oh, don't get rid of him yet. Don't make a rash decision. But I mean, the thing is, the Cowboys are inconsistent. I was telling some buddies of mine, I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers win that game. They're getting hot towards the end of the year. Yeah, their receiver core is a little bit beat up, but they're still out there. They're playing week after week. And McCarthy, though, like I said, in the Cowboys, they're just inconsistent. You just don't know what you're going to get. You might go out there. It's like a casino. You might go out there and win a $500,000, or you might go out there and lose and maybe only win $5, or you lose $500,000. So, with the Cowboys, you don't know. Cowboys are a scratch-off ticket. That's what I'm going to say there. The Eagles, though, like I said, I think there was some more injuries, some more issues going on. So that's what I gotta say. I mean, it definitely is a major loss. I mean, to go 10-1, you go 10-1. You think they're gonna go right back to the Super Bowl and then get knocked out the first year or the first round, but it's football. Any given Sunday, Saturday, or Monday, I guess, or Thursday, I guess. It really doesn't matter. I mean, anything can happen. So that's what happened last night. The Buccaneers, they wanted it more, and I mean, and the thing is with that game, they was aggressive. Baker got the ball. As soon as he got the ball, he was driving that thing down the field. So. And they were smart. They were smart. When they was there, they took the field goal points. They got the field goal. So um, they wasn't trying to get risky and screwing up for them. So unfortunate, to have both those teams having good seasons, but it's the NFC East. It's to be expected.
Yeah, that's a good point too about the NFC East. I didn't even think about it from that perspective. But go ahead, Zach. The mic is yours.
Yeah, I'll start with the Cowboys. So they've won 12 games in each of the last 3 seasons, and they're the first team in the history of the NFL to do that and not make an NFC championship game during that span. We all know this franchise hasn't been to one since 1995. That's a long time ago. And we also knew that going into this game, this team had been the best home team in the NFL. They had won 16 home games in a row going into this game. And of course, you guessed it, who is the only home team during Wild Card Weekend to lose? The Dallas Cowboys. If you want to call Mike McCarthy a good regular season coach, that's fine. But the bottom line is he's just proven over and over and over again that he can't get it done in the playoffs. And that's why, to be honest, for me, this was a hire that made no sense in the first place because he had a lot of really talented teams in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers that were good in the regular season, but they rarely could get over the hump. I know they did that one year, but, that's a long time ago now. That's 2010. It's been a minute. And the thing about this game specifically, the Cowboys' body language as a team was just off from the beginning. Their defense let Green Bay take the ball and march right down the field to start the game, and that just continued throughout. I thought also the Cowboys' defense, which has been good during this 3-year stretch, last year in that playoff game against the 49ers, their offense really let them down when their defense played really well. But in this game, it was just a complete failure on both sides of the ball. And I think the defense under Dan Quinn did take a legit step back this year. I understand that Diggs was out and Gilmore was banged up, but where was Micah Parsons in this game? Where was DeMarcus Lawrence in this game? And I feel like when it comes to Dak Prescott, there are going to be a ton of conversations about him throughout the offseason, but he's had a bunch of games like this where the numbers look really good. But if you just watch the game, that he could have been better. He was not good at all. And I don't think the Cowboys can bring Mike McCarthy back. A little bit later in the show, we're going to really get into this coaching carousel and who we think would be a good fit where. But I'll start off by saying that, Lil. I think the Cowboys need to move on from Mike McCarthy. I'll have some thoughts on Sirianni and the Eagles, but I'll pass the mic over to you before I get into that.
Yeah, definitely, man. I guess I could start off with Mike McCarthy. Look, man, I understand we as media pundits, we love to pressure owners into firing coaches so we can create content to talk about. We did the same thing with Bill Belichick before he officially got fired. I saw all the monologues about Bill Belichick's career. He's the greatest of all time. Long live the king. Hello? He's still hired, my guy. He didn't get fired, my guy. What are we doing here? Can we wait till we finally get an official word that he's out of here? Oh, long live the king. You got Chandler Jones, singing. I'll get into that later. I want to test my vocals on the show. I'll do that later, But yes, going back to Mike McCarthy, nah, I don't think he should be fired. Dak Prescott had his best year, this year. This was the first year where we actually started considering if Dak Prescott is a top 10 quarterback in this league. We was talking about him being like a game manager, but this was the first year where we actually said, you know what? He might be an MVP of the league at one point. I never really fully bought into that, but I'm just going with the narrative that y'all was pushing my way, So I don't think so. I think every coach have their stints where they go under the wayside. Andy Reid had 5 straight seasons where he didn't win a playoff game before he got Mahomes when he was in KC. It happens. Bill Belichick, okay, so we're going to fire Mike McCarthy. The big dog is Bill Belichick. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. He's 29-38 without Tom Brady, with no playoff wins without Tom Brady. One playoff appearance where they got run out the gym. Buffalo felt sorry for them. They said, you know what? We're going to take the foot off the gas in the third quarter. Okay? And after all what they done to them, they showed them mercy. Okay? So we're going to go for that guy? Really? There's no coach you can hire today, not named Jesus, that's going to make me feel any better about the Cowboys. What we should be talking about is their daggone quarterback, Mr. Dak Prescott, who doesn't show up in big games. That's what we need to have a conversation. I'm tired of having conversations about coaches. It's like Joel Embiid. Oh, fire Doc Rivers. Fire that guy. Fire what's the other dude that had a beef with Jimmy Butler? I forgot his name. Brett Brown. Fire him. Fire this guy. Like, nah, stop firing these coaches. Do you have a guy or not? Is your guy a championship caliber quarterback or not? Because he is 2-5 in playoff games. Is he it or not? And if he's not it, then you got to have a plan to try to get off that. Okay? Try to get off that and try to get off Dak. Okay? With all due respect, I'm tired of blaming coaches. I understand coaching is a big thing in the NFL. It's a sacred conversation to have. And I understand we want to bully, Jerry Jones to fire this guy. Listen, Jerry Jones is not going to hire anybody but a yes man. Okay, and I don't think with old age that's going to change. This guy is 80-something years old and haven't matured a day in his life. Okay, he is going to leave this world whenever he leaves this world, the same person he is. Okay, a racist, number one, and number two, a guy that's synchronized in his own ego. That's not changing, folks. So we need to stop with the pipe dreams, unless Bill Belichick is going to willingly allow him to stick his hand up his butt while he hires him. Okay, then fine. Then maybe we'll have Bill Belichick or maybe a Mike Tomlin. Okay, maybe somebody else. Okay, listen, let's stop it, please. I think Mike McCarthy deserves another opportunity. They have won in the regular season the last couple of years. They had a very good offense this year, and it needs to continue to build upon. But Dak Prescott is the guy that you need to attend to, because that was the same guy that lost the game last year when he threw 3 interceptions against the 49ers. In this game, he threw 2, should have been 3. Dak is the guy you got to look out for. Mike is y'all.
I just wanted to say this, right? I definitely think it's fair, of course, to criticize Dak Prescott after that game on Sunday. He was not good enough. He's definitely had his struggles in the postseason. But my thing is, I just don't know what change the Cowboys could make at quarterback this offseason if they're still serious about winning a Super Bowl. Will, you mentioned it. Like Jerry Jones, he's 81 years old, and you could criticize him all you want. Obviously, he is a big reason why the Cowboys have not had a lot of success lately. But one thing I really do respect about him, there are really two things. One, he wants to win more than anything, right? This guy, you could see it. Like, they were panning the camera to him every time the Packers scored on Sunday, and his reaction said it all. He said after the game it was the worst playoff loss he's ever experienced as Cowboys owner, and there have been a lot of them, so that was bad. And also, he has put together a really talented roster. Like, yes, they've underachieved, but this roster still is really good. They've won 12 games 3 years in a row. So although I do think it's very fair to criticize Dak Prescott after this game, I just don't know. Like, he was in the MVP conversation throughout the year. I don't think it's realistic to think that the Cowboys are going to be moving on from Dak Prescott at quarterback. So if he's back next year, the only choice you really have in terms of changes is to make a change at head coach. And when you've won this many games in the regular season 3 years in a row, you can't just run the whole thing back. A change has to be made somewhere. And especially with all of the coaches on the market, we're going to get into it later in the show, from Bill Belichick to Jim Harbaugh to Mike Vrabel to Pete Carroll. Like, there are so many better coaches out there on the market right now compared to Mike McCarthy. And again, although I think it's more than fair to criticize Dak Prescott, he has to start showing up in these big games. I just don't think he's going anywhere. And if you're not changing the quarterback, you got to change the head coach.
Look, I just think real quickly, Darren, feel free to jump in if you have any more laps in you. I just think when you talk about, reaction, everything, I understand that, nobody wants to get blown out of the gym at home in the playoffs to a young team at that, the youngest team in the NFL at that. I get it. There's a lot of aspirations for the Cowboys of winning. And I get that. It's a lot of pressure, playing in that Cowboys uniform. Okay, let's talk about it from that perspective. We got all these talented guys, and they are being looked upon as the greats because they play for a great organization. Okay, there's a lot of pressure that come within that. How everybody can't play in New York in the NBA, not everybody can play in Dallas in the NFL. And I get it. You want to fire Mike McCarthy because you're upset. But at the end of the day, Dak Prescott is still going to be here. He's still going to have to deliver. And he has shown us no example of delivering. Okay, look, Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was a guy. Okay, he was a guy. He's that dude. Okay, at that time, that's why he won. You need a guy in today's modern game, and Dak Prescott is not the guy. With all due respect, another thing too is I'm not even going to blame Mike McCarthy for the loss. I'm just not. You saw Dan Quinn's defense out there. All right, the Packers took it to Dan Quinn's defense. Before they turned around, they was already trailing. Okay, whatever game plan I had, now that I'm down 14-0 because my quarterback just threw a daggone interception, okay, now I'm playing a different game. Okay, they didn't even give Mike McCarthy a chance to really get into the flow of the game. He look around, he's down 14-0. Okay, they ran the ball with Aaron Jones. He had a monster day, 3 touchdowns, 21 carries for 118 yards, and they treated him like Kawhi Leonard with the load management program. Okay, he was in the load management program, and they saved him for the playoffs, and he went beast mode like he was Marshawn Lynch. But we trying to lynch Mike McCarthy here? I don't know. Listen, I understand his game management is suspect, his clock management and all that, but I'm just not going to blame him on this one. I think he should be back another year.
Do you think he had the Cowboys ready to play, though? Because I didn't. And that's the reflection of the head coach.
It's hard, because you're down 14-0, You're ready to look around, you're trailing. The Packers did a good job of taking that ball and going down the field and scoring. And then, okay, the next possession, your quarterback throws an interception. What could you do? You're down 14-0 already. Dan Quinn is getting taken by the woodshed, by Matt LaFleur. The game is over.
He's the reason why Dan Quinn has been there. And this is not a one-year thing. Like, they've won. You're the first team in the history of the NFL to win 12 games 3 years in a row and not make an NFC championship game. That's on the head coach, bro. Get your team ready to play once in the playoffs.
No, I definitely want to agree. I definitely want to agree with you on that, Zach. Like, I feel like, McCarthy's not giving them discipline. If you got a coach like Tomlin's, he's yelling at his guys. He's going to tell his guys, get it together. All I'm saying, and it's been a full show. I haven't said nothing. I haven't done no hot takes, nothing crazy yet. You know, we was talking about Detroit. You know, I was very conservative there. I didn't want to go, oh, we're going to the Super Bowl. I mean, I'd like for us to do that, but here's what I'm saying. You know, we was talking about what kind of combination can, you know, get the Cowboys over the hump and win the Super Bowl, which I'm going to say I don't think it's ever going to happen until Jerry Jones dies. But, you know, there's the Jerry curse. But I'm saying, you know, you bring a guy in like Tomlin, not Belichick. You bring a guy like Tomlin who's been in the
Oh
playoffs
Lord,
consistent.
good Lord.
I mean, think about it. They made the playoffs this year with Mason Rudolph. I mean, to save the season, Rudolph had to save the season. That doesn't even make sense. But they got Rudolph in here. You know, they didn't have, you know, I don't want to talk trash on Steeler Nation here, but they didn't have like a team. I mean, they're okay.
Let me just jump in quickly. I hate to say it, man, but it doesn't look like Mike Tomlin's going anywhere. We're gonna get into it later in the show, but he told the Steeler locker room he plans on being back. So
for sure. I'm just playing hypotheticals. I'm saying this is the combination. This ain't what's gonna happen, but this is what would get him over the hump. I think you get if Jerry Jones lives, whatever. I'm saying Tomlin, and then you guys can ridicule me, but you got to bring a guy like Cousins in. And I know you're gonna say, okay, that's dumb, that's crazy. But they got a defense. They got what I'm just hear me out. They got a defense, and the thing is with Cousins, he's a shootout. He's a shootout quarterback. He's gonna get the points put on the board. Let him get the points, and you got somebody like Tomlin to because the thing is, you're gonna have somebody like CeeDee Lamb's gonna need discipline because CeeDee Lamb he's rolling that locker room. You saw how he was. He was yelling at Prescott. You can't have your wide receiver and your quarterback on two different planes. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to win a playoff game. As soon as I seen CeeDee Lamb yapping at Dak Prescott, I was like, nope, they ain't winning that game. It's over. So all I'm saying is you got to put the points up, and, you know, they got the defense. I wish the Lions had the Cowboys defense, honestly, but that's, I mean, I do and I don't because I do like what the young Lions have going on. But
Look, man.
That's my combination. If we had to pick a winning combination, that's the best I got. That's my scratch off ticket for you, McCarthy.
I just don't see it, you know, with this franchise. You know, I do agree that CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, they was on the same page throughout the whole year prior to that game. It just happened in the playoffs when it's the most important game, win or go home. They was off the same page, and you saw that it got into Dak Prescott's head because as soon as that happened, multiple altercations, he force feeds CeeDee Lamb, I think, on like a slant route and was intercepted. He didn't even watch out for the safety. Pick six. Game's over. So it's a lot of issues over there. But I'm pretty much done on the Cowboys. I think I'm ready for the Eagles. Any last words on the Cowboys before we go to Nick Sirianni? All right.
I'll just end by saying this. Like, again, I think it's very easy to criticize Dak Prescott, and I think he deserves it. But, Will, I've said this to you weeks ago, and I'm sure you remember, but, like, I would just love to see Dak Prescott with a coach not named Jason Garrett or Mike McCarthy. Like, those are two coaches we know that just cannot get you over the hump. And yes, he has to be better in the big moments. And we're going to get into this later in the show. But like the Cowboys would be stupid not to hire Bill Belichick. And I'm sure a lot of other teams feel that way. He has 6 Super Bowl rings for a reason. He's going to have a large market. But again, we're going to get into that later in the show. So I'll save it there.
Yeah, definitely. I want to talk about Nick Sirianni before we go to halftime here on the show. You know, I think his situation is different. I would fire him tonight. You know, I would have fired him last night after last night, literally. Because I think when you talk about it, I saw this coming from a mile away, bro. I had no binoculars. You know, I am Nostradamus, but I'm not Nostradamus. Okay. When they were 10-1, all right, I went on this air. Unfortunately, Zach, I think he was battling COVID at that time. You know, my cousin was on the show. He's an Eagles fan. And I told him, I said, you know what? They are a fraudulent team. When they was 10-1, and my cousin didn't allow me to talk. He took over the mic. He ran with the mic. I had no platform. You know, he kind of like silenced me, you know, like it was like how you silence Aaron Rodgers because he talking too much. Let's silence him. You know, that's what happened to me. I felt like that, you know, and since then, since that take, they lost to the 6-11 Giants. They lost to the 4-13 Cardinals. Okay. They allowed Baker Mayfield, folks. Okay. Now, let me get this straight because I know a lot of people know I don't like Baker Mayfield. I just don't think he's any good, and I don't like his face. He has played a solid year. Is it a great year? No. You know, you can't be 9-8 and have a great year, and I call that a great year. No, it wasn't. In the worst division in football at that. I'm going to go solid year from Baker Mayfield. Arguably the best year of his career. You can make that case. Okay. And you allowed that guy who was on the clearance rack, okay, in the summertime to torch you up for 333 yards, though 3 touchdowns on you with 0 interceptions. Okay. And to add insult to injury, they were 0 for 9 on third down, the Eagles here. They were 0 for 2 on the fourth downs. The tush push didn't even work. That's how you know the sky is falling. With that joint don't even work anymore. And they couldn't tackle to save their life. They couldn't tackle my grandmother, with all due respect. It was literally one of the worst defensive games I have ever seen in the playoffs. And I'm not even trying to be overreactive. I'm trying to be proactive. But what I saw last night, it was terrible. And that's a microcosm of how they played all year. Nick Sirianni has lost the locker room dust. He should lose his job in the process. I think he should go. I think Mike McCarthy should stay.
Go ahead, Darren.
I don't know. I mean, listen to you speak. I'm like, okay, yeah, football is more than just offense. It is a defense thing. So I do get that, but I don't know, man. I don't see how the guy gets the Super Bowl last year. I feel like there's still got to be a little bit of grace period. A little bit of grace period. I think some of the coaching decisions, like I said, is stupid. I think like I said, Hurts shouldn't have been playing. He shouldn't have been playing in that last game against New York. They have him playing. He gets banged up some more. They don't win the game. They get beat by the Giants. That is kind of crazy to think about it, but I don't know. I think you got to give him a little bit more grace period. A little bit more grace. It does suck, but I mean, I don't know. But they're gonna have more problems though. I mean, with Kelsey retiring, probably arguably one of the greatest centers of all time. I mean, they're gonna have to find somebody to have some chemistry with, and I don't know. They're gonna have to find somebody new. Like you said, the tush push didn't work. Maybe the tush push is done with, and it's time to rebrand themselves. But right now, the Eagles they're down at Popeyes because they got cooked.
Literally. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, so Will hinted at it, right? This is a team that started 10-1 and then managed to go 1-6 in their last 7 games. And I hinted on this on the show a couple weeks ago after they lost that game to the Cardinals. I've just never seen a team come so close to winning a Super Bowl, right? They were just a couple plays away, and they fell apart so quickly. And I think that's a reflection of the head coach. Like, we know how Nick Sirianni acts when things are going well. He's mean mugging the camera. He's yelling at Chiefs fans off the top of his lungs. But he's proven that when he faces adversity, he has no answers and he has no ability to respond. And we know the NFL, when you're in this league long enough, you're going to have plenty of adversity facing you. And that display of tackling and effort last night was just pathetic. Like, this was a playoff game, a Monday Night Football, prime time. And it looked like the Eagles just had no interest in being there. They looked like a team that had won 5 games and was playing their season out in week 18 and just wanted to get out of there in a meaningless game. And we shouldn't have been shocked by this, right? Because this was the only adversity they had really faced in his tenure up to this point was his first year when the offense just couldn't get anything going. And he gave away his play calling duties to Shane Steichen, and immediately the offense took off. And I also think it was an overreaction this year by making the change of defensive coordinator to Matt Patricia. I understand the Eagles defense, even when they lost those 2 games to the 49ers and the Cowboys to start this skid, they weren't playing well. But honestly, I just think that was like a lack of talent in especially the secondary and the linebacking position. Like, did anyone see James Bradbury last night trying to tackle people? I've never seen someone go from being a good player to this bad this quickly. And instead of handing the defensive play calling and defensive coordinator duties over to Matt Patricia, why couldn't you fix the real problem and take over offensive play calling duties from Brian Johnson, who we've seen really since the start of the season has no idea what he's doing calling plays? Like, isn't Nick Sirianni supposed to be an offensive mind? He was the OC of the Colts. That's why he was hired. And Todd Bowles, he's known for being one of the most aggressive blitzers in the league. Like, the book is out on him. And that has been something the Eagles have been struggling with since week 1 when they played the Patriots. I think Bill Belichick kind of gave the rest of the league a little bit of a blueprint of how to limit and shut down this Eagles offense. And that was week 1, and we're in the playoffs, and this Eagles team, they still had no answers. And if you're not an offensive genius, if you're not the one calling plays, if you're not the CEO of the team, and I thought maybe he was, but it's clear that locker room is lost, like what exactly does this cat do well? And I'm not just saying fire Nick Sirianni for the heck of it, right? Like, Darren, I see what you're saying. Yes, he made the Super Bowl last year in only his second year, which is, that's a legit accomplishment. But we've seen just how much this team has fallen off since both those coordinators left. And I wouldn't just fire him for nobody if you didn't have a plan, but kind of what I was hinting at with the Cowboys. Like, Bill Belichick is out there. Mike Vrabel is out there. Jim Harbaugh is out there. Pete Carroll's out there. And you can't tell me that any of those guys aren't a better option than Sirianni. And also, the last question I'll ask before I pass the mic is, if the Eagles do fire Nick Sirianni, there are, 8 openings right now? Are any of these teams going to want to hire him? Because my answer would probably be not.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of coaches on the market. We're going to get to that in a few minutes. But, I think upon Nick Sirianni leaving, that this Eagles job will probably be the most attractive job on the market by far. And it's not even close because they already have the talent on the roster. They're the most talented team out of any of these vacancies that's open. And they have the playoff experience. Now, I agree with Zach on this particular topic, on this particular side. I do think when you collapse like that and you lose the locker room like that, there has to be repercussions. I don't think you just, come back and talk water out of a well all of a sudden and get these players to buy in. I think he had his opportunity to rewrite the ship. You referenced Mike Tomlin, on the last, on the Cowboys side, Darren. And, I'm not really the biggest Mike Tomlin guy here on the show, and we're going to find that out even further when we get to that topic on the show. However, one thing and one, example where I will give him credit for is that when the Steelers was, losing games this year, they had that stretch where they lost to the Patriots. They had that stretch where they lost to the Colts. They had that stretch where they lost to the Cardinals, the worst team in football. He got his guys at the end just enough to get into the playoffs, to stop the bleeding. He was able to fix that little mess that, by all intents and purposes, he created. Okay, he was able to fix it by going to Mason Rudolph, installing new life, okay, giving this team a heartbeat with some CPR, and he got them to the playoffs. Nick Sirianni didn't do that. Okay, what became 1 loss, became 2 loss, became 3 loss, became 6 out of 7 games you lose, and then you get to prime time Monday Night Football. They put you in a prime time slot because you're supposed to be a prime time team, and you don't have a prime time performance. You get dusted. You don't tackle well. Okay, honestly, I felt like football was something I could do. Watching that game last, I'm like, oh my God, he can't tackle that. Man, give me a ball, please, and a jersey because I'm gonna be running this Rock Hill jersey. Okay, with all due respect, it was terrible. And once again, I think Nick Sirianni has to go, and that's my take.
Not to mention, too, like, you could easily make the case. His coaching was a big reason why they lost the Super Bowl last year. And that was really the first big moment. Well, I know you've been very keen on this. Like, they kind of just coasted to that game. They didn't really have any trouble.
My God, Dujane, real quickly. I want to give him a shout out real quickly. My God, Dujane, check out his show. Good stuff.
Yeah. And, he's had no answers all season. So I know the Eagles were favored going into the game last night, but no one should have been surprised.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. We're slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.